Well, here we are. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We are so excited for today's live event with Chris Lytle, and I've been asked to introduce the great Chris Lytle with a quick bio. And let's be honest, Chris, we all know your bio, but for those of you who have not had a chance to watch Chris Lytle or tune in to Chris Lytle, Chris has trained over 250,000 broadcast advertising salespeople worldwide. He is the best-selling author of The Accidental Salesperson, and his sessions promise a more usable information minute than any other event that you've attended, and I'm here to say that that's very true. Chris emphasizes that learning only matters if you apply it to actually see the results. Chris was inducted into the Wisconsin Broadcasters Hall of Fame in 2018. Chris, you now live in Chattanooga, Tennessee with your wife, Sarah, and if I'm not mistaken, your three cats.
Three
Chris,
cats.
Three cats. Yep. And Chris, you're a great friend of 10-Minute Trainer Network. You are the absolute gold standard motivator for transforming sales teams and to becoming the best of ourselves. So, Chris, it is a pleasure to have you here, and we are so excited to get your great information over the next 30, 45 minutes.
My pleasure, Brian. Thank you very much.
Well, I'll let you share your screen. I'll pop off, and Chris, it's all yours.
I'm sharing my screen, aren't I?
Yes,
There we
sir.
go. One more thing. Okay. One of the things people say when I started a seminar, how do you get up for one of your seminars? And I used to say coffee and belief. And I've got the coffee here, and I believe in what I'm going to tell you, and I believe it'll help you. And I've always felt that way whenever I did any kind of program. But you mentioned the seminars that I used to do, 250,000 salespeople. Those were 6 hours each. I'm so glad that the 10-Minute Trainer Network exists and that I can do 2 minutes here or 40 minutes there. A quick icebreaker, everyone. One of the things I like to do is get people just to quit thinking about what else you were thinking about. Think about today's celebrity birthday. So if you know today's celebrity birthday and how old he is today, you can text that in or however you've told them to do that, Brian.
Yep, they've got a chat and a text line as well that Jen is tossing out there.
Okay, has anybody come up with it yet? We'll do another 30 seconds. I'm not hearing any answers, so
Yep,
I'll keep going.
it's just a little bit of a delay here, and everyone's shouting out Tony.
Tony Shalhoub, 71 years old today. That's the magnificent Mrs. Maisel. He's the father in that character. And of course, he was on go. This is in the handout. If you got the handout, if you don't, you can download it from the site. But training is a planned program designed to impart specific knowledge, skills, and attitudes. This is called the attitude advantage to increase desired behavior in measurable ways. And so it's so important. I mean, mostly when we do sales training, we talk about how do you close? How do you prospect? What do you say? But if you don't believe in what you're doing and what you're selling and what you're doing in general, you're never going to use those behaviors. And so Neil Rackham, the great Neil Rackham, author of Spin Selling, put it this way: sales success is made up of those little building blocks called behaviors. And I don't teach sales techniques. I teach sales behaviors. And if you behave in a certain way, the client will react in a certain way. But here's the model that I think it's important to understand, that your beliefs and attitudes about what you're doing creates your behavior. And I've heard, problems of belief and attitude are more critical than problems of technique and sales behavior. So your belief and attitudes create the behavior, And that produces the outcomes in the marketplace. And those outcomes reinforce your beliefs and attitudes about what you're doing. So if you have the right beliefs and attitudes, good things will happen. So I want to work on your beliefs and attitudes about selling in the next few minutes and see if you can internalize some of these things, because they will really help you in the long term and the short term. This is the best 9-word definition of selling I've ever seen. Phil M. Jones is a British sales trainer, and his definition, selling is earning the right to make a recommendation. Now, if you believe that selling is earning the right to make a recommendation, and if that's your attitude, how does that change your behavior? Well, you certainly wouldn't come in pitching. You'd come in asking questions and trying to find something you could help them with. So I love that definition. I think it's probably, in 50 years of doing this, it's probably the best. It is the best definition I've heard. Now, the first thing to get into your brain today is, as long as you're in business, you're in sales. And sometimes people say, well, I just ended up in sales, and I wrote the book, The Accidental Salesperson. I didn't plan on a sales career, but when I got into it, I really liked it, and I got pretty good at it. But here's the thing. As long as you're in business, you're in sales. I was in Snowbird, Utah on a ski trip, and there was four of us couples were on the trip. And one of them was Dr. Scott Knoll from Newark, Ohio, my hometown. And, we're out there skiing, and I didn't know what to talk to him about, because I'm a sales trainer. And I said, so Scott, what's the biggest issue, or, the biggest issue in dentistry today? And he said, sales. And I said, oh, no kidding. He said, yeah. He said, they don't teach you that at the Ohio State University College of Dentistry, that you have to sell people on a root canal. You have to sell them on crowns. You have to sell them on veneers. Here's a $12,000 proposal for your new veneers. So it was like, he thought, I really appreciate what you do, Chris, because nobody taught me this in college, and I have to sell all the time. Last seminar I did it in Manhattan, Kansas, and some of you guys were around for that. And look at me, I'm so old and tired. They wanted 4 hours in the morning, so I made it through that session. And there's no sound on this video, but I wanted to share with you the title of this presentation that I made. Your business card says you're a marketing consultant. Now what? And one of the things that had happened, everybody had a marketing consultant on their business card, even though they were selling advertising. But marketing consultants is a nice way to put it. But then they say, well, what do marketing consultants do? And so I wanted to really get into with them the history of consultative selling, or where it's come from, and how selling has evolved. So the evolution of the sales mindset, that was brought to my attention by this book, Exceptional Selling. That's Jeff Thull. How to best connect and win in high stakes sales. And he talks about the first era of selling was persuade, and you had to go in and this is me in 1976. I had hair, I had hope, I had a orange gremlin, a leisure suit, and a fiberglass briefcase, and I was selling radio advertising in Madison, Wisconsin. And get your foot in the door. The more doors you open, the more sales you close. That was my sales manager's mantra. Get your foot in the more doors you open, the more sales you close. And one day, I got to a sales meeting, and he had this album of J. Douglas Edwards, 13 Effective Methods for Closing the Sale. And it was an hour long. And I'm going to play you 2 minutes of it. But this was one of the closes that they were teaching when it was the era of persuade, and it was hardcore. It was win-lose, and this is J. Douglas Edwards on record.
Secondary question. A great good friend of mine who was once a salesman of mine, selling an intangible business service. Toughest product in the world to sell. Tougher than insurance, tougher than advertising. The toughest of all the intangibles is business service. He used to use the secondary question close, and he used it magnificently. And he used to use it like this. When he was ready to close, he'd say to a man, "As I see it, sir, the only decision you have to make today is this. Do you want this for the 2 or the 3-year term? By the way, do you want to use your pen or mine?" What did he do? What did he do? Why is this a great close? And this is as great a close as you'll ever hear. What did he do? Let me repeat it. Now, as I see it, sir, the only decision you have to make today is this. Do you want this for the 2 or the 3-year term? By the way, do you want to use your pen or mine? What did he do? I'm sure there was alternative choice there, but that wasn't a simple alternative choice, was it? Here's what he did. He posed the major question. Now, as I see it, sir, the only decision you have to make today is this. Do you want this for the 2 or the 3-year term? But he didn't give the man a chance to decide, did he? He immediately followed it with a minor decision. By the way, do you want to use your pen or mine? Do you realize that when the man made the minor decision, the major decision was carried, wasn't it? Now, this is secondary question closing. You pose the major question. But before they get a chance to answer it, you immediately give them a minor alternative choice. When they make the minor alternate, the major alternate automatically carries.
Now, that was sales training from the 60s into the 70s, and then Tom Hopkins kind of took over for J. Douglas Edwards. So that's what I was exposed to early in my career, and it was that persuade and close and tie downs, and it was manipulative. What did he do? So you were doing things to people. And I like what Zig said years ago, selling is not something you do to someone, it's something you do for someone or with someone. And that's today's definition, October 9th, 2024. It's not something you do to somebody. So I like that attitude. I like that belief. And I like the way selling has evolved. I said about this in The Accidental Salesperson. You don't have to trick people into buying from you. Never use a close you read in a book or learned in a seminar, because most of those closes were like J. Douglas Edwards manipulative closes, which really repels people. However, I'm a big fan of James Muir. He reminds me of a young me. He's a Rackham, but does it make sense to do X? Does it make sense to go ahead with this marketing campaign? I put it, does it make sense if you have the blanks of them? Does it make sense to start this marketing program? And the thing about the perfect close is you're really not asking them to do anything. You're asking them, does it make sense to do something? And they can say either yes or no. But that requires that you go into any meeting with what you're going to ask a person, and then what's the fallback position if they say no to your first ask. And with James Muir, you might have 2 or 3 fallback positions, or at least 3. And so somebody says, I say, does it make sense to get this marketing campaign on the air? They say no. Okay. Then you might say, well, at this point, a lot of our clients come to the station or meet with our creative people, and so they can get a sense of what the next 3 or the first 3 commercials in the campaign would sound like. Does that make sense? And if they say yes, then you can, get that meeting set to do the creative. If they say no, you can say, well, what does make sense at this point? So you give it back to them. You give it back to them. And so you kind of don't try to control everything like J. Douglas Edwards did. You try to get the clients to think with you and to make some of their own decisions based on the good things you're presenting. Now, the evolution of the sales mindset in era 2 was solving problems. And that's where we start to get the consultative selling. And Larry Wilson, this is a cassette program, Sell on Purpose, that he did in 1985, a cassette program. And Larry had just come into his own as a sales. Well, this was his second decade in sales training. He had been in life insurance sales, and the story is that he took his daughter to the University of Minnesota campus for freshman orientation, and while she was at freshman orientation, that's a few months later, he went to the bookstore, Larry did, and he found a copy of Carl Rogers' book, Client-Centered Therapy, which was written in 1951 for therapists. And he read that. He bought it for $1, and he read it. By the way, it's 50 years old. This is the 50th year or 70th anniversary, 70 years old, on Amazon today. So he read that book and he said, man, that really applies to selling. And two, he came out with his first counselor selling workshop, the Larry Wilson Sales Seminar, Counselor Selling. And it was based on asking questions and reflecting what they said like a therapist and letting them talk about their own problems without judgment or without jumping in and interrupting them. And it became consultative selling. And Larry was kind of the first guy to do that. He wrote a book called Win-Win Selling, Build Trust with Your Customers, Discover Their Needs, help them succeed, improve your results. And so the shift was from win-lose, I closed you, to win-win, I helped you, and you got to benefit from, and I made, I sold, I won, but you won because the product or service I sold you helped you make some money or solve a problem. Tony Alessandra was an early influence on me. The book Non-Manipulative Selling came out in 1979. And you heard the J. Douglas Edwards record and the manipulation that he was, your pen or mine, very manipulative closes. Tony wrote Non-Manipulative Selling, Strategies and Techniques for Creating Customers, Not Just Sales. So a whole different way of thinking, win-win. 44 years later, he's still around. I think I linked you to his video, but Non-Manipulative Selling and How to Build Trust, still talking about it. So Anthony was a pioneer. And then here's stage 3 or era 3, become a source of business advantage, where just by calling on someone, just by offering an insight, sharing information, asking them good questions, you help their business. And I have a whole series on the 10-Minute Trainer Network called Grade and Upgrade Your Business Relationships. And I hope you'll take a look at it, but it's all based on the chart. And I'm going to give you just about 45 seconds to look how these objectives evolve, level of trust changes, the way you approach it, involve a client changes, concern or self-esteem issues. And I'll just let you read that for 45 seconds so you get a sense of that. It's also page 3 of your handout if you have it, if you have a handout. And so if you're going to be a source of business intelligence, business advantage, you're thinking about customer creation, you're credible to highly credible based on your own history with the client. You're a true source of industry information, business intelligence, being a resource. You're researching their trade magazines or online, association websites. And you're talking to more than just the buyer. You're probably talking to the end user and owner, and you're networked throughout the company. And so that's more of a level 3 approach. You can make money at level 1 or 2, but level 3 is where you become that the resource, and they think about you when they have a problem, they call you. I used to say to people, I hate to fly, but I love getting upgraded. And if you'll think about upgrading, using the chart to grade and upgrade the prospects you have and start to work on those stronger relationships, level 2 and 3. I did a seminar once. I said, can you see yourself at different levels with different clients? And everybody said, I sure can. And this one person says, I think I'm at 2.5. I'm doing everything in column 2 and a couple, 3 things in column 3. So maybe can I be a 2.5? Of course you can be a 2.5, but that's a lot better than being a 2. So the stronger the relationship, and remember the last conversation is the relationship. So you can grade each meeting. You can even grade voicemails with this, but let's leave that there. This is a story that happened to me just about 1.5 years or 2 ago. I was at Hi-Fi Clyde's. Now this is a sports bar and a music bar in Chattanooga, but I've never been in that line because I've never gone in the evening. I always go at lunch, but I'm sitting in this bar watching some soccer and it is a sports bar, but I mean, I'm at the corner of the bar with Sarah, my wife, and this guy comes in and there's a Premier League match on TV and he's talking to the bartender and he knows all these players. He knows the teams. He knows the coaches. He's a very knowledgeable fan. I struck up a conversation. He'd worked in Germany and he started loving soccer when he worked in Germany. So he'd fly to Dublin for meetings and then go to a soccer game. And he turns out he's got all these degrees. His big degree is a PhD in nuclear engineering. And he's just a nerd guy that is just so smart. And Sarah and I said, oh, we love Dublin. We've been to London at least 20 times. And oh, really? What did you, and he said, what did you do? What, he probably thought I was retired because I look so old. But I said, well, I'm a sales trainer. And he got really quiet. He said, to go out on sales calls. And it terrifies me. I mean, he got all these degrees. He's a brilliant guy, but selling is just terrifying. And he goes, what's your method? And, this is a problem with striking up conversations. If you tell people what you do, then they want to pick your brain. Happens on airplanes. But now I'm doing sales training at the sports bar. And I just said to him, what I tell my audience is, your intention should be to discover how you can help this customer, not to see how you can help yourself by selling them. And he just went, oh, wow. And I didn't want to keep doing sales training because, at the bar, but I said, I wrote a book called The Accidental Salesperson. Check that out. Look for some of my content online. And he goes on and he says, I just ordered your book from Amazon. I said, well, I just made 25 cents. Thank you very much. But that's really a good belief system. I mean, your intention should be, I'm trying to see if I can help this customer, not see if I can help myself by selling to them. I want it to be a win-win. So I came across this podcast on detachment, and I'm going to play you about 5 minutes of it, maybe 4 minutes, about the importance of detachment. And detachment simply means I'm not attached to the outcome of this meeting. If I close it, that's great. If I don't close it, life goes on. And not to be thinking during the call, am I going to close this thing or not? And so because if you are, you're not in the moment. And so these guys, Brian Neal and Bill Caskey, are just having a conversation about this. I just want to let you in on that conversation. I'm playing snippets of it. But here's the big idea.
And if you really think about it, the ultimate form of control is letting go. That's the ultimate form, and it's counterintuitive to what people think. And so you've got to understand, if you want to, we don't like to say control people, but if you want to control the sales process, the best control you can exhibit over deals is to let them be, to let them go and give them space to go at the pace that they want to go and operate that way. And you'll see if you create the space, people will be drawn to you. People want to be in your sphere and around you if you give them space to do that. And if you try to control and grasp and hold on, that will repel people. It will push people away. people always ask us, what are the tricks? So how do you get detached? I get that asked a lot. So you get the theory to say, okay, what does that mean? There are a couple of things that I've learned also over time. One of them comes from my football officiating world, and I learned this actually from my football coaches. And it's a common phrase used in sports, and it's called play the next play. Play the next play. So as life goes, or as a game goes on rather, and you're going to screw plays up, things occur. You have this little phrase, and play is gone. It's in the books. It's done. You can't undo it. You can't rewind it. You can't replay it. It's over. So you have to move on and continue the game. And good performers, I find, are really good at that. They can plow through the mistake or plow through the success in the game and let it go and move on to the next thing. Because attachment is almost always rooted in either futuristic thinking that hasn't occurred yet or past thinking that's already gone, right? It's one of those two. That's what causes it. That way, it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's almost like attachment is rooted in fear.
Yeah.
At its base level, because I'm attached to something, because if it doesn't happen, bad things are going to happen. My manager is going to fire me, or my manager is going to criticize me, or boy, this thing should have closed and it didn't. And so fear, worry, self-consciousness are all at the base of attachments.
In the sales world, attachments come one from your boss. So you think your boss you need to perform for them.
Go get this one,
go
Brian.
Get it.
Man,
you can do it. Yeah,
this is a layup. This should be a layup.
Yeah, you got this. There's that, and then there's the attachment of the ego of being accepted by customers. So that is, if you don't buy from me, you've rejected me as a human, which we know is not true, and yet it still gets in the way. So that's another attachment element there. Another attachment is an at-home thing. So you've got your wife or your spouse or your husband or family or kids that you're supposed to perform for, and they're gonna, get new shoes or not get new shoes based on your deal and that sort of stuff. So,
and if that stuff starts going through your mind when you're on that call or walking in the door,
walk out
and start over.
Why start
and go.
Here's a mantra that one of my clients gave me. I think it's great. Is when you're thinking about your sales opportunities and you want to be a certain way and show up this way. Here's what you know. Some will and some won't and some might, right? And when you think about your sales deal, that's all it is. And so if you understand that and believe that, some will, some won't, and some might. That kind of covers everybody, in my opinion. And it's a great way to think. And I got a client that thinks that and says that to themselves, and that allows them to operate with a high sense of attachment.
That's good. That's good. So I have a kind of a cousin to that, is embrace what is. Just embrace what is, and learn to love it and accept it. And it is a freeing virtue to be detached.
It is,
because it allows you to do the next right thing. Again, as McChrystal said, when we're attached and emotional, we will do the next wrong thing.
Oh yeah.
And so that,
say that one more time.
When we're attached and emotional about things, we will do the next wrong thing, which is maybe lash out, which is maybe call that prospect up and say, hey, come on, man, you said you were going to buy today. You're not. I mean, we all say, oh, we would never do that. But sometimes the tone of our...
Absolutely it is.
You got another one?
No, I'm out.
And I'm out of sound bites. That is Titan, my Bengal, and Chewy, a rescue, and they're embracing. You have some links in the handout. If you see a blue link in the PDF, I've linked you to all these videos and all the podcasts that I just referenced. And so you can get more information. I don't want to send you down a rabbit hole, but in 45 minutes, I can only do so much. And there's a lot more of this to master. So you have some ways to do that. The idea of hit the next shot, don't get ahead of yourself, really came home to me. And I have kind of retired from golf, but I was about a 92 golfer. I could hit 89 once in a while. And I was at a golf course up in Michigan on vacation with Sarah, and I made the turn, and there's a snack bar, and I had a 39. So I was 4 over par, but 39. And of course, I'm analytical, and I said, okay, I'm not going to just break 90. I'm going to break 80 today. And I started thinking about, posting an 80, 88 or 78. And I went out on the back nine and hit 5 balls in the water and shot a 54. So I got my 93. And I just realized I was so far ahead of myself that I wasn't hitting the next shot. I was already writing down the 78. So hit the next shot, ask the next question. Don't get ahead of yourself in selling. So in golf, you have to focus on the next shot, not get too far into the future or the past. Oh, I just made an 8. Oh, you can't be worried about what you just did. You can't be worried about what you're going to do. You got to be in the moment. This is not in your notes. This is extra. In sales, you have to be in the moment, focusing on the conversation you're having. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. Don't be preoccupied with whether you're going to close. Focus on the moment you're in and enjoy the process. It's going to show to the client, and the client's going to pick up the vibe that you're giving off, which is you're not anxious about anything. You're there for them instead of there for yourself. Now, Larry Wilson, late great Larry Wilson, I mentioned him earlier at the University of Minnesota and counselor selling. He said no one sale matters. If you make the sale, you're going to have to make another one. If you don't make the sale, you're going to have to make another one. So don't worry about one sale. Have a pipeline full, work the process. Sales is a numbers game in part because if you have a 30 or 30% closing rate ratio, do very, very well, but you got to have enough things in process. So relax, think about what's best for the client. That's just some more thoughts. Lived in Madison, Wisconsin for 30 years, and it's a beautiful city, and it's really beautiful in the fall. And this scene of Lake Monona and the Frank Lloyd Wright Center across the lake just reminded me of a story that I had. It's called my Vicki Pierce story. And Vicki was a new sales rep. She wasn't young, but she was fairly new. She was, under 30 though. And she must have had some anxiety because she just used to bite her lip, and she'd get her teeth would go. She'd always biting her lip, and sometimes there'd be a little scab there or red marks, and she's just kind of a nervous person. And I can remember driving along John Nolan Drive near the view here, and she said, "I've got to make this proposal tomorrow. I'm getting so nervous about it." And she was just thinking about this proposal and terrified. And I said, "Vicki, no matter what happens, you'll have a job with us tomorrow or the next day because you're good at this. And we want you around. Don't worry about that sale. Just go out and do the best presentation you can. Relax." And I remember we had a reunion 7 years later. She'd gone to Chicago and I'd gone somewhere. She said, "That was the most helpful thing you ever said to me. Just relax. Don't worry about the one sale. You'll have a job tomorrow, whether you make it or not. And just enjoy the process." So I try to help that. And, Nick Saban is famous for his process. And I'm just going to go through this quickly. He was in Michigan State. He befriended an eccentric psychiatry professor named Lytle Rosen. There's Lytle Rosen. Eccentric is a pretty good word for it. He's preparing his underdog team for a long shot away game at Ohio State Buckeyes, who are undefeated. He turned to Rosen for advice on improving the hangdog mindset of his unconfident players. Rosen not only changed their mind, he changed the way they saw the game of football and life. And realizing the average football play lasts 7 seconds, Rosen asked the team to think differently. Concentrate not on winning the game itself, but just winning those 7 seconds. Ignore the scoreboard, the game clock, the opposing sideline. 7 seconds are all that matter. The Spartans could outplay the Buckeyes for 7 seconds. More times than not, the unlikely victory would be in their grasp. And once the game finally arrived, things started badly for Saban's team, down by 15 with 10 minutes to go in the third quarter. He reminded the Spartans to trust the process. And they did. Quarterback Bill Burke, who's over the number 16 there. Despite the deficit, it felt like we had an infinite amount of time to come back. Undeterred by their circumstances, total faith in the process, Burke and his team clawed their way back into the game, ultimately winning in a dramatic fashion. On that day, the process was born. So he's taught this. He teaches it to coaches. He teaches it to his players. And of course, now he's a commentator on ESPN, but the process, and this is Saban talking about that in the press conference.
The fans, the noise, football is football, and there's 11 guys out there on both sides, and the field's 100 yards deep and 53 yards wide, and there's 11 guys out there in different formations, and everybody's got to adapt and adjust and do their job, look at the right thing, react the right way, block the right guy, press the hole and read the run the right way. I mean, I don't know what changes in the game. Do they put more players on the field? Do they make you play like on ice? Is it still grass? I mean, I don't, it's no different. It's only different if you make it different. If you make the game different and you say, I'm going to have a lot of anxiety and I'm not going to be able to focus on looking at the right thing, and I'm not going to be able to focus on doing what I'm supposed to do, just like I did in practice, then I guess it's different. But otherwise, you're supposed to be competing, playing hard, giving the best effort you can, focusing, trying to win, covering the guy you're supposed to cover, beating the guy you're supposed to beat if you're running a pass route, blocking a guy if you're trying to block him. So I don't know. I guess if you're outcome oriented, you would think the game is a lot different. But if you're process oriented and you're trying to play that particular play, hit that particular shot, if you're playing golf and not worried about what your score is going to be at the end of the day, I would say it's pretty much the same.
I think that's a very interesting way to think, and that really helped me when I quit worrying about this one sale. As we finish this up, everybody thinks about the vacation that's coming up, and a lot of times a lot of our excitement is in the future and not in the present. But I always, the dream vacation, but you got to enjoy the journey and enjoy the process. So enjoy the journey. And anyway, I mentioned Neil Rackham, and I just wanted to end with a few thoughts from Neil Rackham. The best selling is about the customer. This is the book came out in 1988, and it changed sales training forever. But the best selling is about the customer. We've known for about 40 years, the best selling isn't about your products, it's about your customers and their needs. And then we swamp our customers with product information, but the research says more time customers talk, the more they buy. And less effective salespeople talk about what they can do. People talk about solutions and do it late in the process. They don't lead with their product or service or their package. They lead with the questions. Customers will start the buying process with what they need and not what you sell. So enjoy the process, and that'll be the end of my formal remarks. And Brian, you can hit me with questions or summarize or whatever you want to do next.
Now, Chris, I just again, I tossed some. We've gotten a lot of folks that have chimed in with on the chat line. There's also the live chat that can ask you, Chris, live questions. And again, we've got a little bit of a delay from the platform here, but feel free to send us a text message as well. But Chris, a couple things that people had texted into the line was, I wish we could all do sales training in a sports bar. And, I think we can all identify with that Vicky Pierce story, right? The anxiety and especially right now, right? Somebody was talking about it's Q4, right? And we're stressed about budgets, and we're stressed about budgeting for 2025. And how do we just enjoy the journey? And so one of the questions is, how do you, Chris Lytle, how do you detach from a sale, or how do you find your refocus? I think we're all dying to hear.
Well, it's a fair question, but I've always said you've got to act like you've already made your budget. You've got to sell like you've made your budget. And of course, I've got money in the bank, and I don't have to do anything that I won't want to. But I think when I was sell as though you already made your budget, and when or sell the way you sold the way you sell week before your vacation, where you really get down to business, really focus. But part of it is knowing that you can do that. And if you've ever played golf and got ahead of yourself, it doesn't work. And if you're trying to make the budget, guess what vibe you're sending to the client? They can tell. They know when you're there for yourself. They know when you're there for them. And so part of it is being there for them is the way you, that's my belief now. So you have to change your belief in order to get the behavior and lose some of the anxiety.
Chris, you're talking about golf first. Thank you. I look forward, anytime I get to hear you, I always look forward to it. The golf reference, and I actually wrote down the Vicky Pierce story. I love it. And then your golf reference. Jordan Spieth said when his career really turned around is when he stopped focusing on winning tournaments. He started focusing on playing better golf, and how he prepared to play golf, how he prepared for tournaments, the process of playing good golf. When he focused on that, he started winning more tournaments. But when he was focused on winning tournaments, it made it harder to play golf. So I think, to your point, we get so focused on that month end or that quarterly budget, and panic selling, as I call it. Panic selling is never a good place to be.
No, it's a terrible place to be. I used to say, sell as if you were going to be invited to your client's Christmas party. And, if I work for you, this is what I would recommend, instead of, I'm not there for me, I'm there for you. And, when I got invited to Christmas parties, I don't know if people still have Christmas parties, but it was always an honor. So, and I was usually one of 2 or 3 reps at the party. So,
Chris, can I throw a question? And Brian, I know I'm jumping ahead of all the questions we've got. Chris, you talked about the pipeline, and one of the things I see out there with so many sellers today, and I think coming out of COVID and not being able to see people face to face, and we got very used to dealing with fewer clients, of having fewer conversations, and certainly fewer face to face. Well, now we're back at it, and I'm seeing a lot of sellers that it doesn't feel like that pipeline is full. And you referenced that a couple of times. Do you mind talking to our viewers out there across our network on the importance of that pipeline and keeping it full?
well, I don't think there's anything more important for your confidence or for your success. Full doesn't necessarily mean jam full. If you think about how many new clients you put on in a year, it's not 20 or 30, it's maybe 8 to 10. So I always like to have a 10 most wanted list. And as I advanced in selling, I would have a 3 to 5 most wanted list, because I had plenty of things to service. But I would want to have three things working all the time, all the way through, as far as you could take it: proposal, spec spot, whatever that was. And if I got a no, then get another one in the process. But just have the funnel doesn't have to be full of 50. It needs to be full of 3 to 5 good ones. And there is the prospecting prescription is something I posted 10-Minute Trainer Network. You might want to spend, if you prospect for an hour, you might want to spend 45 minutes researching the prospect you're going to call, instead of calling 10 people. And having 5 great prospecting calls a week, that's 250 a year. That'll fill your funnel.
Brian, got
No,
more?
no, I mean, I think that, I think that it's, again, what I'm getting from a lot of the comments here are just, there was one on the chat that actually just came through that said, "Hey, this is fantastic. We appreciate you, Chris." I think it's just crossing that line of, right, is the panic selling is what is, now's a perfect time for us to just refresh and rethink and reset a little bit, because again, we're getting a lot of folks that are just saying, yeah, I got to work on that. And I think it's safe to say all of us go through this, especially this time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Brian, Chris, I would suggest something to all of our viewers out there. Chris on 10-Minute Trainer Network, it's Chris Lytle's Accidental Salesperson channel. It's nothing but Chris Lytle, and there's a ton of content, and it's such good stuff. So if you haven't spent enough time on Chris's channel on 10-Minute Trainer Network, certainly I would encourage you to do that. I know we've got people, I'm getting comments from people that are hitting my phone from across the country And this being a free event, if you're not signed up for 10-minute trainer, go to 10minutetrainernetwork.com and make sure you get that taken care of. But Chris, brother, love you. So good to see you. Looking forward. We're excited to, and I don't want to, Brian's going, here goes Darren. He's getting ahead of things, but really excited about Rising Above coming up the end of January. And Chris is going to be bringing, I'll save it, but looking forward to that again. And Chris, you're the best. And we appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Darren. Love you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we started this out, Chris, I went through your description, and you really do pack so much information in a very short amount of period of time, right? And every minute is just packed full of information, as was today. And again, I think today was needed, right? That, you know, we get into our everydays, and no, we appreciate you very much. And you know, you've got a great audience out there, and we thank you everybody for tuning in. And again, yeah, take advantage of it. If you're not, as Darren mentioned, if you're not yet registered for 10-Minute Trainer Network, reach out to us. Love to learn about your group, love to learn about you as a seller, and happy to help however we can. But Chris, very much appreciate your time today, and hey, wishing you all the best. And Dan, thanks for jumping in.
My privilege. Thank you.
Swagger on, Chris Lytle.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, Brad.